people struggle when it comes to relationship. This is a trend that's happening globally, and there are several reasons for that. But what makes a healthy relationship?
You imagine the foundations of a house. So you can build a house that looks beautiful on the outside, looks beautiful on the inside. You can decorate it spectacularly. You can throw wonderful parties there. But if the foundations aren't robust, it's all going to fall down. And that's a little bit like relationships.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Eat, Burn, Sleep podcast. Today, Steve Burns is joining us for this episode, and we're going to be talking about how to build healthier relationships. Steve is someone who's a cross between a coach and a therapist. The way he works, and we're going to talk about it today, is highly effective. He's an expert when it comes to relationships. Healthy relationships are absolutely key when it comes to mental well-being, psychological well-being, physiological well-being, and longevity. So you can go to a gym as much as you like, you can watch your nutrition, you can do all these things. If you do not have healthy relationships in your life, your longevity and your lifespan will be affected. Steve, thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure. That sounded wonderful. It really did. And you kind of nailed it. Unless we maintain healthy relationships, we're going to struggle with all sorts of physiological, emotional, and psychological issues.
So, Steve, I would love us to revisit your background. You were a successful businessman.
I was.
You floated your company.
I did.
And you had a nervous breakdown.
Just a little one, yes. A little nervous breakdown on the back of some childhood trauma, on the back of lacking balance in my life, on the back of some addiction challenges. I hit, as many people do, an emotional brick wall.
So Steve today is a coach, therapist, addiction specialist, relationship specialist. And what I did find amazing when I met him was that he had this huge challenge, which was a complete breakdown, and was about to lose effectively everything in his life.
Absolutely.
And the traditional ways of putting people back mentally didn't work on him, a bit like what I experienced on a physiological level, where my body was not responding to medication. And what you did is you created a method that saved you.
Yeah, I think that's true. I spent an awful lot of time looking for help. Saw lots of psychotherapists, saw lots of psychiatrists, or the odd clinical psychologist, some counselors, hypnotherapists. The list does go on. And unfortunately, I never found what I was looking for. I didn't find someone that offered me a balance between, one, understanding myself and my past in the context of what I was struggling with in the present, who could also hold me by the hand and lead me a little bit in terms of how I might choose to walk forward. After a couple of years of what felt like going round and round in circles, I decided to become a voracious reader, watcher, learner, and created what I believe is a toolkit, an approach that is highly effective in helping people smile more and frown less, helping people to live something much closer to their very best life.
Amazing. And just for the record, Steve's Therapy Lounge is the name of his practice.
Yes.
Has 5 stars on Trustpilot. Not 4.8.
Not 4.8.
Eat, Burn, Sleep has 4.8, but 5 stars from 500 people.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And you have helped people that I've sent you, several people. So let's talk about how your method can help with relationships. So we are at a time where we are connected through so many devices, so many applications, so many things online, yet we've never felt so disconnected from our communities, from, friends, from a lot of teenagers talk about this, but also people in adult life. The number of single people has never been higher. People struggle when it comes to relationship. This is a trend that's happening globally, and there are several reasons for that. But what makes a healthy relationship?
Trust. I trust that you are going to be respectful, kind, compassionate, interested, and you trust that I'm going to be the same. And if we both bring that trust to the table and we're consistent about it, very difficult for us not to build a healthy relationship that flourishes. It really is the very epicenter, the foundation for any kind of relationship. But trust takes time to develop, right? And we live in a world of instant gratification where I'm not sure many people are willing to invest the time, take the time to build a trusting relationship. If you imagine the foundations of a house. So you can build a house that looks beautiful on the outside, looks beautiful on the inside. You can decorate it spectacularly. You can throw wonderful parties there. But if the foundations aren't robust, it's all going to fall down. And that's a little bit like relationships. I believe trust is the epicenter.
In friendships, in romantic relationships.
In every kind of relationship. This is husband and wife. This is parent and child. This is work colleague. This is best friend. Trust really is in all of these relationships critical to our ability to maintain a healthy relationship. And that's the key, right? Relationships have the propensity to help us live something close to our best lives.
Yeah.
But relationships also have the propensity to create massive trauma and drama in our lives and have us walking around living something closer to our worst life.
I remember when I was much younger and working in a corporate environment, the impact of having a toxic colleague on people was insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. And it's, I see it with my children sometimes. They get a teacher that they don't trust or they don't like.
Yeah.
And it's incredible how when you get a good teacher who believes in you, who inspires you, it completely changes the way you feel about that school year.
Absolutely.
And it's the same thing with work. If you have colleagues who want you to do well and you want them to do well and it becomes something positive, when they come to you with criticism, it's constructive, it lifts you.
Right there. So where there's trust, you believe that whatever is the feedback that you're receiving, it's constructive. Its intent is to enhance, not to demean. You would be amazed. Every day I have people walking into my office, Yelda, where they're in married relationships or they're talking about a parent or a child where there isn't any trust. It's not discussed. It's like a dirty little secret, but there's a fundamental lack of trust. And I can see the impact emotionally this has on people, and then obviously that leads into the physical impacts and the like.
And trust takes a long time to build.
It does. It's not something that we can achieve in a matter of minutes. It's about consistency.
Yeah.
It's about openness. It's about vulnerability.
Yeah.
Sharing some of our fears, sharing some of our shame.
Yeah.
And again, I meet lots of people where they choose to give their trust at the very start of a relationship. And I'm not sure how healthy that is.
You have to give the benefit of that, to be open to the fact that a person can be a good person, that you will trust in time, because we have to give that chance. You can't be wary. I know people who have a very dark view of the world.
Yeah.
And, I've met some really wealthy people who always think that people are out there to take their money from them.
Yeah.
And they become train wrecks. I'm like, what's the point? Get rid of your money. If this is the result of you having money, you're ending up having no friends because you think everyone's going to take that away from you. Just get rid of the money and live a happy life on the beach.
I think there's a correlation there. I tend to find people who are more successful in the Western world, 21st century kind of definition. So they have money, they have status, they have education. I tend to find, like you, there's an awful lot of people that have those resources where they lack a basic level of trust. Invariably, because they've been hurt in the past, but because they don't understand themselves and they don't understand the other people, they're kind of locked in this place where they might talk a good game, but they lack trust. And that affects everything in terms of the relationships that they have in their life.
I have another theory about this, but it's not very kind what I'm about to say. A lot of people who are very successful in some fields are because they're slightly cutthroat. And because they are like that, it's when you're I'll give you an example. If you are someone who cheats on a regular basis, and you meet somebody, you think they're cheating because that's what you do.
Absolutely.
I remember when I was 19, I had this boyfriend who kept thinking I was cheating. And I was like, what is he talking about? Is he crazy? I couldn't understand. But that's because he was cheating on me.
Yeah.
So some people who don't have trust is because they can't be trusted.
Yeah, very much so. Trust requires us to create boundaries. So I'm sure when you left this morning, you closed your front door, you locked it.
Yeah.
You maybe checked the windows were closed. You maybe set an alarm system. Why? Because it would seem outrageous for you to leave your home and leave all of these physical assets that you value unlocked. So people could come in and either steal them or paint your walls or whatever the case may be. It's exactly the same in relationships. To give someone your full trust day one, that's a little bit like I'm going to leave my front door open and I'm going to kind of trust that no one's going to choose to steal from me or do something that I wouldn't want them to do in my property. None of us would do that. We're all trained from a very early age when it comes to our material resources, our assets, to protect them. We put money in a bank. We might put jewelry in a safe. But when it comes to our energy, when it comes to our time, and when it comes to our self-esteem, it amazes me how reckless we can be. How, as a result of a lack of boundaries and a decision or a desire to just give trust unconditionally, we end up living a fairly dramatic and traumatic life.
So we're now getting into the core of it, which is boundaries.
Boundaries, yes.
So it took me many years to understand what building boundaries was.
Yeah.
For most people, you can track it down to your childhood. I come from a Middle Eastern background, and we don't do boundaries very well.
Yeah.
We don't do boundaries very well. So I learned the hard way to set boundaries. And, sometimes I still struggle with it now. And I'm like, hold on, Yalda, you're giving too much here. Just set a boundary. It doesn't mean you don't like that person. It doesn't mean you're not loving and kind.
Absolutely.
But it's depleting you.
Yes.
And I have tried with my children to bring in boundaries. Things like knocking on their doors before going in.
Yeah.
Saying, is it okay if I come in? Can I, just making them understand they have their own space and their own person. And yes, they come from me physically, but they are their own person.
Absolutely.
Lack of boundaries can create absolute disasters and...
Not can, will.
Will.
Absolutely.
And can lead to also what we had spoken the last time, these codependent relationships.
Absolutely.
So how do you know you do not have boundaries?
If you're in relationships that feel very dramatic, that perhaps either deplete you of energy or create anxiety and guilt and stress if you're not following through, or that just seem to rob you of your own kind of self-esteem and self-belief, then you've got a boundary problem. The problem's not the other person. The problem is you not recognizing how you might choose to put a new lock on the front door and perhaps have some window locks and maybe get a new alarm. And, there is a real difference between I'm going to prioritize me at the cost of you. That's not a boundary. A boundary is I'm going to protect me in a way where I show you respect and dignity, but it's about me looking after me. It's about me locking my front door, closing all the windows, setting the alarm, and therefore being able to go out in the world feeling a little bit more secure.
So what's the difference between setting boundaries and being selfish?
So if I'm selfish, I'm going to prioritize me at a cost to you. That's very different to me wanting to protect myself. See the difference?
Yeah.
So a boundary is about my time. It's a finite resource. It's going to run out one day.
Yeah.
My energy, it's a finite resource. It's going to run out one day. And my self-esteem, which is at the epicenter of how I think, how I feel generally in life, and how I behave. So if I'm in a relationship where I feel some kind of resentment or guilt, the other way around my time or my energy or my self-esteem, then I'm lacking boundaries. Now that sounds a little bit subtle, but it's not when, so I'll sit with one client and they'll talk to me about the relationship with their mother. And it will be very clear to me that relationship is draining the human being who's sitting in front of me, and where that relationship is completely out of balance. And I can see the impact it's having on this wonderful human being in terms of their energy, their vitality, their general sense of mental calmness, never mind their self-esteem. But the problem in that situation isn't the other person. The problem is having the courage to choose to put those security systems in place. Because if we put them in place, it's so much easier to maintain healthy relationships. Because I can turn around to you and say, Yelda, you're wonderful, but that's a boundary. And if you want to maintain this relationship, which I hope you do, please respect it. It's kind of simple as that. I say it's simple. Setting boundaries, if we're not used to it, is really difficult, right? It's challenging.
I completely agree with you that generally the problem is not, in this instance, the mother, but the person themselves. I experienced this when I got divorced.
Yeah.
So I didn't have enough boundaries when I was married. And that's, not enough boundaries and not enough trust.
Yes.
And of course, that ended the way it has. It didn't work out. And when I got divorced, I decided to try to understand what went wrong.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, I can't just blame the other person. It takes two to tango.
Very much so.
I have married this person.
Yep.
What went wrong? So I had a lot of therapy with different people, and it took me some time to unravel all the understanding of things from childhood, from past experiences, all the things that influenced me subconsciously, actually. Yeah. And I slowly started setting boundaries in my life, very slowly. That brought a huge sense of calm in me. Because I was like, yes, we can do that, but at this pace.
Absolutely.
Like that.
Absolutely.
And I remember starting to notice that the lack of boundaries was not just with my ex-husband, but with many people in my life.
Yeah.
And that it came from me.
Yeah. Yelda, I'll point out again. Growing up, your parents taught you the importance of locking a door, closing a window, protecting the assets that you hold dear. But no one had the conversation with you as you were growing up and in your teenage years about boundaries in relationships and the critical nature of you understanding them and setting them. Hence, we walk into adult life, we have no security systems in place, we kind of trust unconditionally, and unfortunately that tends to be a recipe for the disaster.
I can confirm that. So what happened is I had this lack of boundaries with many people.
Yeah.
And as I set boundaries, I lost friendships.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that happens because some of the people in your life, because they're not emotionally aware, intelligent, invested, they will see that as, again, you trying to control or manipulate the relationship. But then we're back at the subtle difference between you choosing to be selfish versus prioritizing you and your needs. And unfortunately, it's just a truth that if we are honest about our boundaries, there are some people in life that just will not be able to accept that, won't want to accept that, will see that as the problem, and will not want to be part of one's life. My view, that's a blessing.
Thank you for listening so far. We'll be continuing this conversation in part 2, so make sure you're subscribed to the Eat, Burn, Sleep podcast so you do not miss it. In the meantime, for those of you who are not members of the platform yet, we have a discount code for all our podcast listeners. You can get 15% off all Eat, Burn, Sleep memberships. Just enter the code podcast15 at checkout on the memberships page on eatburnsleep.com. We still have so much more to cover, so please stay tuned.